What's up, guys, and welcome back to my reading journey. Hope we're all doing absolutely fine. And today, as usual, we're gonna continue with Seneca's letters from a Stoic. It's gonna be the letter 120, more about virtue. So let's continue. Your letter roamed over several little problems, but finally dwelt upon these alone, asking for explanation. How do we acquire a knowledge of that which is good and that which is honorable? In the opinion of other schools, these two qualities are distinct. Among our followers, however, they are merely divided. This is what I mean. Some believe that good to be that which is useful. They accordingly bestow this little upon riches, horses, wine, and shoes. So cheaply do they view the good, and to such base uses do they let it descend. They regard as honorable that which agrees with the principle of right conduct, such as taking dutiful care of an old father, relieving a friend's poverty, showing bravery on a campaign, and uttering prudent and well-balanced opinions. We, however, do make this the good. We, however, do make the good and the honorable two things, but we make them out of one. Only the honorable can be good. Also, the honorable is necessarily good. I hold it superfluous to add a distinction between these two qualities, inasmuch as I have mentioned it so many times. But I shall say that this one thing, that we regard nothing as good which can be put to wrong use by any person. And you see for yourself to what wrong uses may man put their riches, their high position, or their physical powers. To return to the matter on which you desire information, how we first acquire the knowledge of that which is good and that which is honorable. Nature could not teach us this directly. She has given us the seeds of knowledge, but not knowledge itself. Some say that we merely happened upon this knowledge, but it is unbelievable that a vision of virtue could have presented itself to anyone by mere chance. We believe that it is in inference. It is inference due to observation, a comparison of events that have occurred frequently. Our school of philosophy hold that the honorable and the good have been comprehended by analogy, since the word analogy has been admitted to citizen rank by Latin scholars. I do not think that it ought to be condemned, but I do think it should be brought into the citizenship which it can justly claim, which it can justly claim. I shall therefore make use of the word, not merely admitted by as established. Now, what this analogy is, I shall explain. We understood what bodily health was, and from this basis we deduced the existence of a certain mental health also. We knew too bodily strength, and from this basis we inferred the existence of mental sturdiness. Kindly deeds, human deeds, brave deeds had at times amazed us, so we began to admire them as if they were perfect. Underneath, however, there were many faults hidden by the appearance and the brilliancy of certain conspicuous acts. Conspicuous acts. To these we shut our eyes. Nature bids us amplify praiseworthy things. Everyone exalts renown beyond the truth, and thus from such deeds we deduce the conception of some great good. Fabricius rejected King Furius furious, gold, deeming it greater than a king's crown to be able to scorn a king's money. Fabricius also, when the royal physician promised to give his master poison, warned Furious, 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 to beware of a to beware of a plot. The self same man had the resolution to refuse either to be won over by God or to win by poison. So we admired the hero who could not be moved by the promises of the king or against the king, who held fast not to a noble ideal, and who is anything more difficult, was in war sinless, sinless, for he believed that wrongs could be committed even against an enemy, and in that extreme poverty, which he had made his glory, shrank from receiving riches as he shrank from using poison. Live, he cried, O furious, thanks to me, and rejoice instead of grieving as you have done till now, that Fabricius cannot be bribed. Horatius Caucus, blocked the narrow bridge alone and ordered his retreat to be cut off, that the enemy's path might be destroyed. Then he long withstood his assailants until the crash of the beams, as they collapsed with a huge fall, rung in his ears. When he looked back and saw that his country, through his own danger, was free from danger. Whoever, he cried, wishes to pursue me this way, let him come. He plunged headlong, taking as great care to come out armed from the midst of the dashing river channel as he did to come out unhurt. He returned, preserving the glory of his conquering weapons as safely as if he had come back over the bridge. These deeds and others of the same sort have relieved to us a picture of virtue. I will add something which may perhaps astonish you. Evil things have sometimes offered the appearance of what is honorable, and that which is best has been manifested through its opposite. For there are, as you know, vices which are next door to virtues, and even that which is lost and debased can resemble that which is upright. So the spendthrift falsely imitates the liberal man, although it matters a great deal whether a man knows how to give or does not know how to save his money. I assure you, my dear Lucilius, there are many who do not give but simply throw away, and I do not call a man liberal who is out to tamper with his money. Carelessness like ease. Carelessness looks like ease, and rashness like bravery. This resemblance has forced us to watch carefully and to distinguish between things which are by outward appearance closely connected, but which actually are very much at odds with one another. And in watching those who have become distinguished as a result of some noble effort, we have been forced to observe what persons have done some deed with noble spirit and lofty impulse, but have done it only once. We have marked one man who is brave in war and cowardly in civil affairs, enduring poverty courageously, 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 and is great shamefacedly. shamefacedly. We have praised the deed, but we have despised the man. Again, we have marked another man who is kind of his friends, and restrained towards his enemies, who carries on his political and his personal business with scrupulous devotion, not lagging in long suffering, where there is anything that must be endured, and not lagging in prudence when action is to be taken. We have marked him given with lavish hand when it was his duty to make a payment, and when he had to toil, striving resolutely, resol- resolutely, and lightening his bodily weariness by his resolution. Besides, he has always been the same, consistent in all his actions, not only sound in his judgment, but trained by habit to such an extent that he not only can act rightly, but cannot help acting rightly. We have formed the conception that in such a man perfect virtue exists. We have separated this perfect virtue into its several parts. The desires had to be reined in, fear to be suppressed, proper action to be arranged, debts to be paid. We therefore included self restraint, bravery, prudence, and justice, assigning to each quality its special function. Now then, we have formed the conception of virtue. Virtue has been manifested to us by this man's order, pro, pro, propriety, steadfastness, absolute harmony in action, and a greatness of soul that rises superior to everything. Advance has been derived our conception of the happy life which flows along with steady course, completely under its own control. How then did we discover this fact? I will tell you. That perfect man who has attained virtue never cursed his luck and never received the results of chance with dejection. He believed that he was citizen and soldier of the universe, accepting his takes as if they were his orders. Whatever happened, he did not spurn it as if it were evil and borne in upon him by hazard. He, he accepted it as if it were assigned to be his duty. Whatever this may be, he says, it is my lot. It is rough and it is hard, but I must work diligently at the task. Necessarily, therefore, the man has shown himself great who has never grieved in evil days and never bewailed his destiny. He has given a clear conception of himself to many men. He has shone forth like a light in the darkness, and has turned towards himself the thoughts of all men, because he was gentle and calm and equally complained with the orders of man and of God. He possessed perfection of soul, developed to its highest capabilities, inferior only to the mind of God, from whom a fire flows down even into this heart of a mortal. But this heart is never more divine than when it reflects upon its mortality and understands that man was born to the purpose of fulfilling his life, and that the body is not a permanent dwelling, but a sort of inn with a brief sojourn at that, which is to be left behind when one perceives that one is a burden to the law to the host. The greatest proof, as I maintain, my dear Lucilius, that the soul proceeds from loftier heights, as if is as if it judged its present situation lowly and narrow, and is not afraid to depart. For he who remembers whence he has come knows, for he who remembers whence he has come knows whither he is to depart. We do not see how many discomfort we do not see how many discomforts drive us wild, and how ill assorted is our fellowship with the flesh. We complain at one time of our headaches, at another of our bad digestions, at another of our hearts and our throats. Sometimes the nerves trouble us, sometimes the feet. Nowadays, nowadays diarrhea, diarrhea. And again, it is cataract. We are at one time full bloated, at another anemic. Now this thing troubles us now that, and bids us move away. It is just what happens to those who dwell in the house of another. But we, to whom such corruptible bodies have been allotted, nevertheless set eternity before our eyes, and in our hopes grasp at the utmost space of time to which the life of man can be extended, satisfied with no income and with no influence. What can be more shameless or foolish than this? Nothing is enough for us, though we must die some day, or rather are already dying, for we stand daily nearer the brink, and every hour of time thrusts us on towards the pre- precipice, or towards the precipice over which we must fall. See how blind our minds are. What I speak of as in the future is happening at this minute, and a large portion of it has already happened, for it consists of our past lives. But we are mistaken in fearing the last day, seeing that each day, as it passes, counts just as much to the cradle of death. The failing step does not produce, it merely announces weariness. The last hour reaches, but every hour approaches death. Death wears us away, but does not rule us. But does not rule us away. Real. For this reason, the noble soul, known as its better nature, while taking care to conduct itself honorably and seriously at the post of duty, where it is placed, counts none of these extraneous objects as its own, but uses them as if they were alone, like a foreign visitor hastening on his way. When we see a person of such steadfastness, how can we help being conscious of the image of a nature so unusual, particularly if, as I remarked, it was shown to be true greatness by its consistency? It is indeed consistency that abides. False things do not last. Some men are like Wattinus or like Cata by turns. At times, they do not think even curious, curious, stern enough, or Fabricius poor enough, or Tubero sufficiently frugal and contented with simple things, while at other times they vie with Lucianus in wealth, with Apicius in banqueting, or with Maecenas in daintiness. The greatest proof of an evil mind is unsteadiness, and continued wavering between pre- pretense of virtue and love of vice. He'd have he had he'd have sometimes her 100 slaves at hand, 200 slaves at hand. He'd have sometimes 200 slaves at hand, and sometimes 10. He'd speak of kings and grand moguls and nothing but greatness. Then he'd say, "Give me a three-legged table and a tray of good clean salt and just a coarse woe gone to keep the cold out if you paid him down." So sparing and content, a million cool. If 5 short days, he'd be a pantsless fool. Again, he'd have he'd have sometimes 200 slaves at hand, and sometimes 10. He'd speak of kings and grand moguls, and now it'd be greatness. Then he'd say, "Give me a three-legged table and a tray of good clean salt, and just a coarse woe gone to keep the cold out if you paid him down." And so sparing and content, a million cool. In five short days, he'd be a pantsless fool. Got it. The men I speak of are of this stamp. They are like the man whom Horatius Flaccus describes, a man never the same, never even like himself. To such an extent does he wander off into opposites. Did I say many are so? It is the case with almost all. Everyone changes his plans and prayers day by day. Now he would have a wife, and now a mistress. Now he would be a king, and again he strives to conduct himself so that no slave is more cringing. Now he puffs himself up until he becomes unpopular. Again he shrinks and contracts into greater humility than those who are really unassuming. At one time he scatters money, at another he steals it. That is how a foolish mind is most clearly demonstrated. It shows first at this shape, and then in that, and is never like itself, which is, in my opinion, the most shameful of qualities. Believe me, it is a great role to play a role of one man, but nobody can be one person except the wise man. The rest of us often shift our masks. At times, you will think us thrifty and serious, at another times, wasteful and idle. We continually change our characters and play a part contrary to that which we have discarded. You should therefore force yourself to maintain to the very end of life's drama the character which you assumed at the beginning. See to it that men be able to praise you. If not, let them at least identify you. Indeed, with regard to the man whom you saw but yesterday, the question may properly be asked, who is he? So great a change has there been. Farewell. Alright, guys. So, thank you for joining today on this letter, and we're gonna continue tomorrow on the next one. Thank you. See you tomorrow, and bye.